Good morning, welcome, 1,000 welcomes. So you're always completely free to keep your eyes closed. Often when our eyes are closed, we can tune in directly to the energy, the blessing, the divine interconnectedness that are being described by these words that I'm about to share, that are being described by the scriptures and the stories, the teachings and the meditations. So if you like, eyes closed is marvelous. We have the blessing today of meditating on a wonderful topic, and that topic is Be Joy. Part of our series, taking steps to connect with the pure love that is already present. And so this invitation to be joy, the joy is already here. The joy is already with us. It's here all along. And what we're inviting ourselves to do is to connect with that joy and to allow that joy to be in every cell of our body. It's already here, so we're activating it, we're enlivening it, we're quickening it, we're giving thanks for it, we're noticing it, relishing it, cherishing it, and as we notice it and cherish it and relish it and give thanks for it, more of it comes to us. And so the teaching from the prayer this morning tells us that in this same experience, in this same field of human experience, if we choose, chaos is certainly here for us to focus on. If we want to focus on chaos, we absolutely can. If we want to focus on fear, sure, like that's available too. If we want to focus on the illusion of separateness, yep, we could do that if we choose to. And then what arises if we choose to focus on that is destructiveness. And so those invitations are always available. And the voices of those invitations can clamor. So they can sort of like scroll across our screen. Depending on how we have our smartphone set up, we might receive push notifications that tell us all the ways in which we should be focusing on chaos and fear and destructiveness and the illusion of separateness. And so what we're doing is we're giving ourselves a divine reset to focus on the underlying calm, the underlying reality, the underlying unity, the underlying harmony, the underlying joy. So if we give ourselves permission to connect with that divine highway of light that undergirds our feet and upholds the whole universe, then the energy of joy naturally arises within us. And so you know this, we all know this. So the human sort of analogs are, it's easy to be joyful when you're in the presence of a kind friend, or when you've had a sweet night of sleep, or when you have like either a cool drink of water or like your favorite cup of tea or whatever it is that sort of is like a cup of comfort for you, like that cool drink of water. And so naturally then there's this current of joy. So each of us always can connect with that current of joy. And so we're just reminding ourselves of that and giving ourselves tools, giving ourselves practice, establishing ourselves in that current of joy so that then that current of joy is available when we have the child tugging on the pant leg or the sibling who is being snarky or snapping at us, or maybe we're the cranky pants ones. Maybe we're the ones who are being in that energy field. And so we're just reminding ourselves of that real current of joy that is always sweetly present and available. So all of these teachings and scriptures and passages and stories are invitations to remember that, to make ourselves available to that, to choose that, and then to just allow that to share right where we are, in simplicity, naturally through the gifts that are available to share through us. And so this, I think, is maybe the shortest way of saying this. This comes from the Ramayana, and the teaching is just take the high road to heaven. That's it, right there. So anytime you're at a crossroads and you're sort of like, do I choose to snap back? Do I choose to grumble? Do I choose to frown? Do I choose to engage with that energy of chaos and fear and illusion and separation and destructiveness? take the high road to heaven. And so I could actually feel you all. You could probably feel yourselves as well. Just notice what it feels like. So I'm going to pretend that you're holding a smartphone in your hand, and I'm giving you a push notification on your smartphone that says, chaos has arisen, wherever it is. Like it's in your family, it's in your workplace, it's in the world somewhere, and there's just like this little beep that crosses your screen that says, chime, chaos has arisen. So notice there's a choice right there. You're at a crossroads right there. And you could definitely take the low road. And you notice how it feels. You notice how it feels heavier. You notice how the energy of strain activates. And you notice how along with that comes exhaustion and comes a feeling of there being not enough of whatever it is, time, energy, resources, love. It's always that. And so that's why we were connecting at the very outset with, there is no limit to pure love. And as soon as we have access to that awareness, there is no limit to pure love. The high road, it's taken through us. But if we're at a choice, like if we're walking along in time and space, we see that little pothole that we could step into if we allow ourselves to. Just remind yourself, take the high road to heaven. Simple line. But you immediately feel the lift. You immediately feel the shift. And so I just want to remind yourself, and me and all of us, that there is no creation of an individual star. Formation happens globally. So there is no separate individual self. Every time we take the high road, we make the high road more present. We make the high road more available for everyone. So it's not just ourselves. We are benefiting every time we take the high road to heaven. We're benefiting so many people, some of whom we interact with on a daily basis, and some of whom we will maybe never cross paths with physically. But still, as we take the high road to heaven, those blessings go forth through us, and they're shared across the planet. They're actually shared in the whole network of consciousness that's available. And so you could think of it as you're spreading light everywhere that you go, every time you choose to take the high road to heaven. And so we all have been there in a room, like whether it's around a family dinner table or whether it's in a meeting room at work or a neighborhood caucus, wherever it is that we find ourselves, a single person in that room choosing to take the high road can shift the energy of the whole room. We've all been there. So please just remember that every time we take the high road, it spreads, it goes forth. The high road becomes visible for all of us. We create caring and connection and trust in time and space in a fresh, new, vital way. So I have a true story. It's a contemporary story. And it's a story about sisters who are traveling together in a snowstorm. And so they're facing one of those crossroad moments. And their immediate impulse is to start squabbling with each other. And then they sort of realize, oh, we're at a crossroads. And they make their choice. And so I'll just tell you the story. And this is to make visible to all of us. Each of us is always making the same choice. And so the story is not on a day like today. It's a day in winter. And it's a story of two sisters who live about 2 hours from a major hospital. And one of the sisters has needed to stay overnight at the hospital to have some tests. So the next morning, the other sister drives 2 hours to pick up her sister, and they know a storm is about to come. And they know that they're driving across the plains. And they know that storms on the plains can lead to whiteout conditions. But they're like, no, we're going to go. We're going to beat this storm because we need to get home to our kids. So they've got this huge impetus to make their way through this storm before it hits. So they get out about 20 minutes, and the flakes start to fall, and they're like, we've just got to keep going. And then it becomes like whiteout conditions where they can't quite see the road, and they're sort of like, but we've just got to keep going. And so they keep going until their car gets stuck. And so their car is stuck at the side of a road, And the sister who's driving takes a look at the sister who's had the medical tests and realizes, ooh, my sister is more tired, more exhausted from the test than she has said out loud. And so that sister stays in the car, and the other sister gets out and tries to dig them out, and it's not working. They're kind of caught in a rut. She steps out into the road enough to flag one driver who is driving by, and the driver sort of makes signs like, I wish I could stop, but I can't stop, because if I stop, I'm not sure that I would be able to get going again. And so they're like, well, here we are, together in this car, in a snowstorm, and they say, let's call for help. And so the sister who's been in the hospital realizes, I ran my battery down, and I didn't recharge my phone. And the sister who's driving realizes, I left my phone on the kitchen counter at home because I was taking care of my kids and I was rushing to get to my sister. And so the impulse, the invitation right there is to squabble and to sort of say, why didn't you charge your phone? Or to say, why didn't you bring your phone? And so that's the crossroads, the kind of like, why didn't you? Why didn't you? Right? And so each of us has been in those moments when we can sort of not be the energy of caring and connection and trust, and sort of say, why didn't you? And sort of be asking someone else to be the energy of caring and connection and trust. And so then what the sisters do is they realize they're at that crossroads, and they join hands, and they say, it's time for an amazing grace moment. It's time for an amazing grace moment. And so they just ask the divine for help. They just hold hands and they say to the divine, we really need help. Along comes a tow truck driver. The tow truck driver hooks them up, pulls them out. They try to pay the tow truck driver. He says, no, I'm happy to help you. He drives away whistling Amazing Grace. True story. And so each of us, the energy that we activate has such a potent creative effect in time and space. So they chose, like instead of the why didn't you, the sort of not caring, not connection, not trust, they said, okay, we're at that crossroads. We found ourselves going partway down that road. It's not getting us anywhere. So let's reach out and hold hands with one another. And I'm not just talking about two sisters traveling in the same car when I'm talking about this. Reach out and hold hands. If it's not physically possible, reach out, hold hands energetically with whoever is reaching out and holding hands. And it's time for an amazing grace moment. It's time. Always. When is it ever not time in the realm of time and space, in the realm of human existence? Every human on the planet needs help. If we are in embodiment, we need help. We need one another. We are designed this way. We have these amazing spindly human legs. They're beautiful. They're so strong and they're so breakable. And that's so we can reach out hands, so that we can learn to walk together, so that we can learn it's always time for an amazing grace moment. There's never a moment when it's not time for an amazing grace moment. And then when we connect with that, when we say, yes, amazing grace is real, it is just as real as the storm. It is more real than the storm. It pre-exists the storm. And it's right there in the midst of the storm. And after the storm has gone, thank God, amazing grace is still here. So those sisters made themselves available to it. And then it became visible. And so each of us, the choices that we make amazing grace visible through us. So I'm going to share quickly just a couple of other scriptures which are always saying the same thing. So that story that I just said is take the high road to heaven. The sisters did that. And so amazing grace became visible in their lives. Each of us is invited to do that right in the midst of our daily life and make the high road to heaven visible. Adi Shankar, he's speaking the language of non-dual awareness. He's saying the exact same thing. I am unborn, deathless, devoid of old age, immortal, self-effulgent, all-pervading, and non-dual. That's not his human self, right? That's not the human body. That's not the human heart. That's not the human mind. I am unborn, deathless, devoid of old age, immortal, self-effulgent, all-pervading, and non-dual. That's amazing grace. And he says, that's what I am. That's what the eternal I am within each of us always is. Perfectly pure, having neither cause nor effect, and contented with the one bliss. I am free. Yes. He says, yes. And so that's, if you want, that's like the one word teaching. Yes. So saying a yes to the divine. So another way to say this is the divine is fully present. Even in the midst of human chaos, the divine is already fully present. And so that yes is you are saying yes to the divine being fully present, and you're opening to see the way the divine is already fully present, even if your human eyes can't see. So I'm going to connect back to the imaging from the telescopes. So the Hubble records visible light, and the Webb records infrared light. And scientists have recently been starting to create composite images where the visible light and the infrared light are being merged into these composite images, which is allowing scientists to understand new things by paying attention to both what is visible and what is not visible. That's the same thing. That's what amazing grace is. And so I have a beautiful line from Emerson to share with you about that. Emerson says, "All that I have seen teaches me to trust the Creator for all that I have not seen." So each of us is invited to be that trust. And so what that means, I want to be clear. The human body, the human heart, the human mind, the human life experiences pain and suffering and chaos and destruction and fear. It does, undeniably. And that is not the whole story. That is not the eternal beingness. That is not the eternal joy of each of us, of all of us. And so each of us is invited to disidentify with the passing pain. The Buddha made this very clear. So there is a teaching shared by the Buddha where in a series of stories, the Buddha was attacked, like physically attacked by people who bore ill will and murderous intent, is the way the scriptures say it, towards the Buddha. And so these attempts on the Buddha's life kept coming at him. And by grace, they were not successful. But the Buddha was injured in one of these attempts. So in one of these attempts, someone attempted to kill him by rolling a rock on him, and a shard of the rock flew off, and so you can imagine it kind of being like a projectile, and it went into the Buddha's foot. And so the Buddha's foot was injured. So a physician had to attend to the foot, there was bleeding, there needed to be healing, and the Buddhist students very clearly said, "What? The Buddha is one who is fully awake. What?" And the Buddha said, "One who is fully awake can experience physical suffering. One who is fully awake can experience physical pain. One who is fully awake does not experience mental suffering." And so he's sort of saying, all those rock shards that we're all walking around with, some of them are active and acute right now. Whatever's been giving us pain lately, some of us are chronic, the chronic rock shards, the ones we've been carrying for a while. He's saying that's part of being human. And he's saying don't identify with it. Move into the full awakeness that allows you, with Adi Shankar, to say, I am unborn, deathless, devoid of old age, immortal, self-effulgent, all-pervading, and non-dual. There's no rock shard that's capable of touching that. And so that which is capable of being injured by a rock shard is capable of experiencing pain. And that is not the eternal awakeness. That is not the eternal joy within ourselves. So we're disidentifying with what is passing. Disidentifying with passing pain, and also disidentifying with passing pleasure. And so then we move into, I am free, I am bliss. Yes, Adi Shankar says. And so each of us is invited to always make that shift. As often as we have a choice to make that shift. Take the high road to heaven. Choose to activate amazing grace. Choose the real, the eternally real. Choose to be joy. St. Paul says this, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be virtue, if there be praise, think on these things. And as we think on these things, they become more visible to us, and not only to us, they become visible to absolutely everyone that we encounter silently, simply, purely, right in the midst of the passing snowstorm, right in the midst of walking across the parking lot, right in the midst of being stopped at the red light, right in the midst of being one who is fully awake, whose body happens to be experiencing pain, and who understands with compassion and awareness that can be part of being human. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with anyone else. And I am the one bliss. I am free. I am taking the high road to heaven. I am the energy of pure joy. I am the energy of amazing grace. And with Adi Shankar, yes. Thank God. And God bless us all.